Welcome to Bleed Blue. This is going to be the podcast where I talk about everything Evil Geniuses. It's a new show, so I understand that a lot of you may not know who I am, but my name is Fusion, and basically, let's see. This podcast has been kind of in the making for a long time now. Just haven't really had the time to like flesh it out and really figure out kind of what I want to do with it. But I think I have a pretty good idea now of what I want the show to be. This is going to be a show where I mainly talk about evil geniuses just kind of as a whole, through all their games. But I think it's only fair that I kind of go through just kind of what I specialize in and what I can give really good opinions on compared to maybe some other games that I'm not as well equipped to. So, for example, Counter Strike is definitely the game I'm the most experienced in. I've been, playing Counter Strike and watching professional Counter Strike since 2015, and obviously, with the new release of Valorant, I obviously have been keeping up with Valorant and playing Valorant. So I feel like in those two games, I have a pretty good mind for understanding how the game works, how players play, things like that, and understanding the esports scene of it. I think I have a pretty good grasp of those two games in particular. I think League of Legends is going to be a game that I'm definitely going to cover because it's Evil Genius's main priority. They definitely put all of their resources, or at least they put a large portion of the resources towards the League of Legends team. They make a lot of content for the League of Legends team. They constantly are supporting them. That's shown throughout their management, which they've done an amazing job with. But yeah, so I'm definitely going to focus on the League of Legends team as well with this podcast because it's so integral to who Evil Geniuses is now. Um, but I will say that my knowledge base with League of Legends is not as deep as it is in Counter Strike. I understand the basic macro of the game. I can watch League of Legends and understand what is good. Hey, this is something that's good that just happened, or oh man, that's really bad, or oh, so and so just got caught out here. But I don't understand the pick ban system as well as I would with other games. I don't really understand like the champions, like which champions are good, which champions are bad, which ones are meta, if one comp is going to be very effective against another comp. Those are things that I'm going to struggle with because I just don't have much depth with League of Legends. I've never played League of Legends in a even serious way. I basically have only watched League of Legends, and I started watching League of Legends roughly 2 years ago. So I have a lot to learn in that front, but I won't be giving as in-depth opinions on the League of Legends team in terms of like, do I think they need to make a roster change? Was their pick ban good here? I can't really speak on that very much just because I'm not as experienced and I don't want to make any false claims and just spew nonsense for no reason. So I definitely think this is going to be mainly geared toward Counter Strike, which is good because now we have 4 Counter Strike teams. So you're going to have plenty of content related to that. Also, good news is that Counter Strike is kind of right now. It's the game that EG is. I don't know. I would say it's got the most going on right now, which is saying something because there's not much happening. But yeah, so I'm gonna say be prepared for a lot of Counter Strike, but I'm gonna give time to League of Legends. I want to also give time to Dota 2, obviously, because there's such a Evo Geniuses is just such a big org in that scene. So, I'm going to make content for Dota 2 as well, but again, I know even less about Dota 2 than I know for League of Legends. So, it's going to be pretty brief, but I'm going to try my best. And then Rocket League, I do watch the Rocket League team. I watched them last season. So, it's not as hard because it's Rocket League. It's soccer with rocket cars. It's not rocket science, even though it is technically. But I can talk about them a little bit, but in terms of like understanding the EU scene and understanding which players are good, you know, has EG done the right thing bringing in a rise? Those are things that I just don't know until I see it, So I'm going to be pretty limited on some of the other games. The fighting games, I wish I was as well versed in those, but unfortunately, that's just not my expertise either. So I'm prefacing this podcast with all of that because I want to make sure that people don't like come into it expecting me to be talking super in depth about games that I frankly don't know about, or just thinking that I'm not willing to give an opinion because about a certain game just because I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it, I just don't feel informed enough to give an opinion. Compared to Counter Strike, where I'm going to be pretty in depth because I understand the game, I understand the scene, and I think I can have some more well-founded opinions on what I think is happening. What is the outlook for this team, for all of the teams, so on and so forth. So with that being prefaced and out of the way, next I'm going to move on to the League of Legends team, who has just completed, and by completed I mean failed, their match against Cloud9. I just finished watching it actually. So it's pretty depressing, honestly. And I'm not going to touch on this too much, but I would say my initial reaction is just, wow, we threw out a lot of games. I mean, we threw every single game we played, including the game we won. And I think the main throw in that game in particular was just JoJo, was just running it down. Um, but even in the last game, it just felt like, Inspired missing the smite was a big deal on the Dragon. I don't really remember much of game two, but I do remember game one. We just took a fight at Baron, or not Baron, the not the crab, but the I can't even remember the name. I'm so sorry. I can't remember the name of it, but it's slipping me. But anyways, we lost a fight. We took a fight early at a buff, and we just couldn't. We just overextended, so it was pretty brutal overall. Props to C9, I guess, but it just felt like it wasn't the same EG that we've been watching all year. It just felt like they kind of just cracked for some reason, which is so strange after seeing how poised and composed they were for this entire, for the regular season. They were pretty consistent, I would say, and during they'd had a great run at MSI and they did well, in the spring split during playoffs. So it was just kind of surprising. Just didn't really expect it. Came out of left field. So hopefully they've made it a lot harder for themselves now. They're gonna have to go through the lower bracket, face Team Liquid to get the to fight for that world spot, which is it's gonna be tough because obviously Team Liquid with their star roster, even if Evil Genius is the better team, Team Liquid's players can just pop off at any time and just take over. So yeah. I think they've definitely made it more difficult for themselves. So we will see if they make it. If they don't make it to Worlds, I think there's nothing else you can say other than it's just honestly, it's just sad, even embarrassing, considering they were poised. I mean, they were ready for it. It was theirs for the taking. So that's all I'm going to speak on for League of Legends. Moving on into well, what other the main my main topic, which is going to be the Counter Strike team. And I'm going to be talking about the main roster. Okay, so this is going to be about the main roster. So for those who are maybe unaware or weren't sure of what happened in Counter Strike, so before this last tournament that just got played, that Evil Geniuses played in, the Blast Premier Fall groups, Evil Geniuses had signed Nealon from K23, and they moved Hexed up from the Evil Geniuses Carpe Diem team, and they brought him up into the starting lineup to replace Stewie 2K. Or Nealon was to replace Stewie 2K, and then Hexed replaced Rush on the main roster, and then Rush got moved to the Carpe Diem team, and then Carpe Diem team also signed Stanislaw. A lot going on there. I guess I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on my thoughts before Blast compared to my thoughts after Blast, which we'll get to later. But before Blast, my thought process on the team was, and they also signed Devorborg as the coach. Can't forget Devorborg. I didn't really know much about Devorborg before he joined the roster. I heard about his managerial skills, but I didn't really know anything about him as a coach other than obviously the fact that he coached Copenhagen Flames, which, for those who don't know, Copenhagen Flames went to the past two majors They lost the last major in the quarterfinal against Ents, I believe. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure it was against Ents. Basically, they're a team that had been looking to sell for a long time. They finally got their players sold, including their coach. And basically, Devorburg had, that team had a lot of success, compared to the skill level of the team, or compared to, what was expected of the team. And so, and it was consistent. So, I think that's great. And I wasn't really sure about Divor Borg in terms of his coaching style. I didn't really know anything about him. But so I was, I was optimistic in the sense that he had been working with a Copenhagen Flames team that, didn't really uh, when you looked at them at first, if you didn't know their previous success, you wouldn't have really thought much of the roster, but they really did pull through. So I think that was an encouraging sign, but still a bit unknown, right? Nealon was probably the biggest unknown with this roster signing because Nealon came from K23, which is a team in Kazakhstan, I believe. I think it's a Kazakhstani team, or maybe it's. I know Nealon is from Kazakhstan, but it's a pretty renowned brand. But K23 has been in tier two for a while. And Nealon looked like he was everything that I heard about Nealon before he joined the roster was that he was a good individual player. Compared, he was a good individual IGL. Like he was good. He performed well individually or decently individually while being in IGL. But I didn't know anything about his calling style. I didn't know anything about how he would work with this EG roster. And frankly, I was a little concerned because there was so much unknown about him that I was really, really hoping that some of the players and Valens and D Warborg had maybe signed off on Nealon, had done some research into Nealon and figured he was going to be a good pickup, but because I just didn't know anything about him. And I think I was a little bit, left wanting more because EG has been starving for success for so long, doing basically nothing for the past 2 years. And, when they had won tournaments before, big tournaments. And so I was a little underwhelmed with the Nealon signing at first. And I had kind of thought, why Nealon when you could get Alex or Alexi B? You know what I mean? There were just options open that I just thought, uh, why somebody must have seen something in Nealon, surely. Otherwise, I don't know why the signing is happening. Hext moving up was a slam dunk. I feel like that was a pretty easy decision. There was no other players in the Party Astronauts or Carpe Diem team that really have I don't think the potential that Hex does. And people have been talking about Hex for a long time now. So whether or not he was, I didn't know if he would be ready for this step up. To be honest, we've seen the previous step ups like Grim, for example, kind of struggled on liquid. So I was a little concerned that maybe Hext was going to be moving up a little bit too quickly just because we desperately needed someone to replace Rush. And it was a little nerve wracking at first too because originally it was going to be Masuda, which I wasn't going to be happy with. But it looked like they didn't want to sign Mizuta just because they would have had to compete in the EU qualifier. And so because of that, they were like, never mind, scrap Mizuta, we're going for Hext. And so that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth because it felt like, okay, was this just like a last second decision that they just like desperately put somebody in there? But no, it actually looks decent, and I'll get to that. So, anyways, they played in the Blast Premier Fall groups. They had to play against right out the gate. They had to play against the what should be ranked as the number one team in the world, FaZe Clan. They're not by HLTV, but whatever. And yeah, not the easiest team to play against in your first matchup, especially when you consider that FaZe isn't like some of these other top teams where you might be able to get them on a map that they're not as good on. FaZe has such a deep map pool. There was no way EG was going to get a map that or there was no way that EG was going to get a map that FaZe didn't like. So it was looking grim. But they performed pretty well. I mean, they lost 16-8, which doesn't sound very good. But I think there was a lot of promise in Nealon's calling on T side, especially. It really looked like the team looked more coordinated than they ever have in the past 2 years, which sounds like, some crazy, like over exaggeration, but I'm being serious. Like the past 2 years, EG has been so bad that this one game against FaZe gave me a little bit of hope because they actually look coordinated for something. Um, so that already was an encouraging sign, but I wasn't obviously, you're playing the best team in the world. You're gonna lose anyway. But I think what was really nice to see was Breezy had a good map. Cirque was playing, Breezy and Cirque topped the scoreboard for EG. Hex looked pretty decent. Nealon was calling well, and Rush was standing in. And that's another key point, actually, is that Rush was standing in for the group stage. And so my expectations coming into group stage after the whole Rush coming in as a stand in was like, it was kind of just depressing because I'd been looking forward to watching them, and then it comes out that Rush is going to be playing over Automatic, and I was like, well, now we're definitely not doing anything in groups because, even if it's best of ones, it's just Rush and Automatic are such different players. Automatic plays a completely different way than Rush, and Automatic is a star player, Rush is a support player, so it just doesn't even out. You know what I mean? It just doesn't. It's not going to work, right? And so I knew coming into groups they were going to get battered and bruised. And I just wanted to take away things from the games that were like, okay, well maybe Nealon's calling looks pretty decent, or maybe Hex looks like he's comfortable, or not, maybe it looks like he's not like freaking out. Signs from Breezy and Cirque would be nice, but let's face it, it's going to take some consistency before we get too excited about that, right? Wanted to see D. Warburg's interviews, wanted to see how he interacted with the media, right? And so I was pretty happy with how things turned out, even if they did lose to FaZe. Moving on into their next game, they had to play big, and this is probably the worst performance that they had during the Blast groups. Um, this was pretty bad. They played Mirage, and I was hopeful. I was hopeful that maybe on Mirage you get some individual players popping off, and who knows what happens. That was not the case. Yeah, it was rough. 16-6. At one point, it was looking good, or at least, well, okay, I'm not gonna say it was looking good, but it was looking somewhat hopeful that maybe some momentum was gonna go their way when Breezy got that 3K where he got 2 kills in connector, turned around, killed one tap the Palace guy. Um, it seemed like that had rejuvenated the team a little bit, and then directly into the next round, this killed me. They Big just runs out with Deagles with like four of their players not even having armor, and they just absolutely bash in everybody. I mean, they just destroy everybody. So it was. I don't even think they lost a player. I don't even know if they lost any health, and you could tell that round just mentally destroyed them. And they never ever looked the same for the rest of the match. So they got absolutely obliterated in that game. It was not close. It was not good. It was bad. It was really bad. And yeah, I gotta say it was tough to watch, but I think I was trying to be optimistic and knowing that Automatic was going to come back. But my concern was, is this Automatic going to be the same, right? I mean, he looked pretty good on the previous roster, even though that roster was terrible. But is he going to be able to step up to that level that we saw years? And I mean, at this point, it's been years. So I mean, is he going to be able to do what he was doing before? Right? You don't know. You can't bank on that. So I was a little worried. I was hopeful, but I was worried. And and yeah, and so then basically they had their final match in the bracket. They had to play NIP in the I believe it was it considered the lower bracket? No, it's not considered the lower bracket, but it was the third place seeding versus the fourth place seeding or something like that. I can't quite remember, but basically they played in a best of three against NIP, and this was their last opportunity to continue moving forward. Otherwise, they were eliminated, and they lost 2-1. So they won a map, which I think I think that might be the happiest I've ever been about EG in the past 2 years. Uh, I'm not even lying. It was I was at work, but I wanted to lose my mind. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Um, yeah. They lose 2-1 here. and it was brutal because to a degree, like it was bittersweet because they had won their first map, but that third match on Inferno just, man, it really felt like they had a chance. It really did feel like they had a chance. Um, but let's kind of start in order a little bit here. So first they played Nuke, which was, I believe it was EG's pick. Yeah, it was EG's pick, and they lost this map 16-7. And they started off the half, I mean, in amazing fashion. They started off 5-0. I took a picture and tweeted it because I haven't seen EG's logo on fire in what feels like forever. So I was already happy with that. I could, EG never wins rounds in a row, so it was just incredible to me to even see the logo on fire. I mean, we barely get 5 rounds in a game, let alone 5 rounds in the first 5 rounds. So it was pretty incredible. And although they ended up losing that half 8-7, I did feel like I did feel like EG kind of squandered some opportunities. Automatic was kind of missing some shots that he had some good flanks that just didn't really pan out. You know, I liked Nealon's style of calling. Although I don't think if I recall correctly, I don't really remember too many A execs. I mostly remember B hits, and using outside and allowing automatic to lurk, which is not a bad thing by any means. But automatic definitely struggled this game. Let's see here on Nuke. Yeah, automatic was the worst performing player. He was 12 and 18. I mean, Hex was 11 and 19, but automatic had a lower rating. Um, but and you saw Nealon doing well. Breezy had a decent map, but it just felt like Automatic squandered some opportunities on the T side, and I mean they kind of just it was a good T side. Like I'm not criticizing the T side at all. I mean it was a great T side. 8-7 on the first half is amazing, right? On Nuke. But they moved over to the second half and they didn't even win a single round on the CT side, even though Automatic almost won that pistol round with the 1v2 clutch. Just didn't have enough time to defuse. Um, but yeah, they just didn't win a round, and that was pretty sad to watch, right? You went from such a high to such a low. It was a little sad to see, honestly. But I think overall it was not that bad. I saw Maniac and Pimp kind of chastising EG, kind of saying that this is just the same old from EG, which I just didn't agree with. I just felt like EG actually showed some promise on the T side, and if you're going to struggle on you know if you're going to struggle on anything on Nuke as a new team with a new IGL and players that aren't confident in themselves, it's going to be CT side Nuke. Like, CT side Nuke requires great rotations, amazing communication. It requires, players feeling confident to make plays. And, I just think that EG kind of came into the series with a little bit of nerves, and frankly, just not enough experience playing with each other on CT side Nuke to really get into it. So I didn't agree with that at all. Even though normally I do agree with Pimp and Maniac, that one just didn't really make sense to me. I felt like EG definitely could show more than what they did, right? So then we move on to the second map, and the second map was Overpass, and this was a absolute blast to watch. No pun intended. Seriously, Overpass was awesome. It was so cool. Automatic 26 and 14, 1.74 rating, just out of this world performance. Watching him on the CT side rifling was awesome. It was so awesome to watch. I can't even it was nostalgic. It really was. Like I hadn't it had been so long since I'd seen these players do just have a game where they just look in control the entire game, and it was just so fun to watch. Hext 18 and 11, Cirque 18 and 11, Breezy 16-14. He didn't even do anything he wasn't even he didn't need to be the Breezy that we want him to be for this game. Nealon was just trying to make plays. I think he was doing a good job, 15-11 for him. But I think the standouts were Automatic, Hext, and Cirque looked pretty good too. And I think it just felt like EG, just all of these players and D Vorborg they just all have an affinity with Overpass. It seems like they just I know historically Automatic and Cirque and Breezy all like Overpass. I didn't really know about Nealon and Hex, but it seems like they like it too. D Vorborg seems to like it. I think I just think that the players just really enjoyed the map, and they just kind of surprised NIP here. It was cool to watch. Hext trash talking was probably my favorite moment of the whole series was just him, or of all of Blast probably was just hearing him trash talk and calling an IP shit. It was funny. It was really funny to watch. It was super cool to hear his interviews. He just seems like a kid with he's just got good head on his shoulders and just just a funny guy and like I think who said it in the interview. I think it was, oh man, who was it? Was it Breezy or Cirque or someone in an interview said that, what word would you use to describe Hext? And it was just electric. And I was like, that's awesome. Like that's just so cool. And it just feels like the mood in this team is really turned around. And so that was the second map. They ended up winning 16-7. NIP getting a few rounds on their CT side. I think EG lost the pistol, and that kind of messed them up a little bit. But overall, in control the entire game, no issues there. And then Inferno, 16-11, EG loses, pretty tough to watch. Started again up 5-0 and just couldn't keep up the momentum. I think they finished the half 9-6, and they had 6 rounds. So yeah, they went up a 5-0 start and they just couldn't get any rounds. And it just felt like they had opportunities, they had players in the right spots, and they just kind of threw away opportunities. You know what I mean? They just kind of gave it away to NIP, in that those later T rounds, and it just they couldn't get as good of a half as they probably wanted, because they were up 5-0. That's just a great opportunity. Just every round you get at that point is just a nail, it's just hurting NIP every little bit, more. But it just didn't really work out that way on the T side. And then on CT side, they just couldn't really get the ball rolling. Again, it showed, the lack of experience on the CT side of coordinating and rotations, right? Inferno is also a very important map for rotations. You don't want to be over rotating too much. You want to make sure you're making good reads. Nealon was kind of running it down, trying to get info, trying to make plays, which was good. But and I like that from him. I like that he's aggressive. I'd much rather have an aggressive IGL than an IGL who's passive and baits his teammates, because in my opinion, um, I think you should be making room for your star players. So I like Nealon's style of play, and I like this calling. Just feels like this team just needs a little bit more practice and coordination on their CT sides, and I think that'll come with time. I'm not too worried about that. So overall, I was pretty impressed, especially considering NIP has now qualified for the for the main for what is it, finals, for the fall final. I think it's a pretty good showing overall. I think that's solid from EG. It was definitely the highlight of the week for sure. Um, yeah, so no massive complaints there. I think very briefly, I kind of want to talk about the map pool, right? Because this is an interesting topic because we don't really know what EG's map pool is at this point. We've seen them play some maps, but we still don't have a clear picture of their map pool, because in the group stage you play best of ones, and you only play one best of three, and best of threes are really where you're going to get the best idea for what maps certain teams like. So what I did was I compiled a list of what maps did EG play, what maps did EG ban, and then I kind of like analyzed it according to, okay, well, did they just ban this because the other team typically bans it? Or I'm sorry, did they ban it because this is a map that the other team is really good at? Or did they not ban this map maybe because they knew that in the later stages the other team would ban it because it's not a map that they like to play? So it's so we're just gonna leave it open, right? So I compiled a list, and I 1 through 7 of what I believe to be their map pool, right? And so I'll kind of explain how this works, because honestly, some of these positions can be moved around, especially 5, 6, and 7. They can be moved around pretty easily. So I'm gonna go from the let's see, do I go from the top to the bottom? I guess I will. It's pretty obvious that the two, that numbers 1 and 2, for EG in terms of what I think their map pool is gonna look like. Inferno is a must. They're gonna play Inferno, and I think that would even be obvious before this that they would play Inferno, just because every team plays Inferno. So if you're banning it out, it's a pretty big risk. I don't know. It kind of limits you a little bit. So I think Inferno was kind of an obvious one, but they showed that they like to play it. EG historically has always liked to play it, and so I'm not super shocked about it. But yeah, they picked, or they didn't pick Inferno at all, but they did play it twice. It was the map they played the most during this week. They never banned it, and I think it was pretty clear that it's a map that they want to play and they want to be good at and they like. So I think I had that one at number one, and then Overpass was number two. For obvious reasons, they beat NIP on Overpass quite convincingly. It was the only time they played Overpass, but I think with a showing like that and just showing how naturally the players like enjoyed playing the map, I think that's it's just definitely going to be something that EG is going to just want to play in the future, right? So I think those two were pretty easy, two pretty clear-cut maps that EG wants to play, because obviously it gets a little harder from here because EG did not win um, any of the remaining maps, obviously. In fact, they didn't even win Inferno, so there you go. But I think so for 3 and 4, these two I feel are pretty revert. Like you can kind of flip flop these two any way you'd like. Um, but it's Mirage and Nuke. And so the reason was why I went with Mirage and Nuke are pretty straightforward to a degree. Mirage I picked as number 3 because the EG picked it. It was the only map that EG, or I'm sorry, it's not they didn't pick it. My bad. They didn't. It's not that they picked it. It's that they they always in their pick bans. When I did the research into looking into okay, what was the order and how they picked banned these maps? What did they like to typically leave in the pool, even if they didn't play it or ban it? And Mirage was always a map that if they banned it, it was later. Well, actually, they never banned it. Number one, but what they did was they never. They always left it open. They always left it open for teams, even though they performed really bad on it against Big. I don't know that you can put too much stock into that because Automatic wasn't playing. Um, So I think if Automatic was playing, you would have seen a different EG on that map. But they, in all of their pick bans, against FaZe, FaZe is the one that removed it. Against Big, obviously, it got left in. They ended up playing it. Against NIP is a really bad Mirage team, so EG just left it in the pick ban, and NIP ended up removing it in their final ban. So, I think it's a map that EG looks like they want to play it, and they don't have they're not opposed to it at all, and it looks like it's something that they're not actively looking to ban it. So I felt like that's got to be number 3, right? Now as for Nuke is the only map they picked. Okay, it's the only map they picked. Um, sorry. Yeah, it's the only map that they picked. They played it 2 times, I believe, or let's see here. Did they play it twice? No. Okay, so this is what it was. So they picked it once, but they've banned it twice. So let me break that down a little bit. The one time they picked it was against NIP, right? And their T side looked good, but when I looked into it, NIP is they're a decent nuke team, right? So it looked like they have some confidence. EG must have some level of confidence on nuke, and I could tell when the match started, you're gonna have to worry about Hampus lurking outside, and guess what? That's exactly what he did, and he kind of owned. But EG felt confident enough to pick the map, which was interesting. Against Big, they removed it, which I thought was a little, I don't know how much you can take from it again, group stage. It could have to do with, the fact that Rush is playing, but they banned it as their second ban. And then against FaZe Clan, they obviously removed it first because that's FaZe's best map, and you do not play FaZe on Nuke, and everyone knows it. So I think I put them as the 4th map mostly because they picked it, which means they, clearly are okay with the map. but the other maps that are remaining are pretty clear cut. EG doesn't like these maps. Sorry about that. So yeah, moving on to and so those Mirage and Nuke 3 and 4 can kind of be flip flopped. Only time will tell, right? So moving on to the final 3 maps, we have Ancient, Vertigo, and Dust 2. And in that order is where I ranked them. So I ranked Ancient number 5, Vertigo number 6, and Dust 2 number 7. I'm very tentative on the Dust 2 number 7. I'm very I think these 3 maps are the maps they like the least, but I get the feeling just due to the individual skill of the players on the team and the way Nealon likes to call, I just get this feeling that Dust 2 could probably go up to number 5 soon, but I think just based off of what we've seen currently, I have to put it as the number 7 map because, let's see, Dust 2 was banned twice. And not only was it banned twice, but it was one of the first bans that, EG against FaZe, they banned Nuke first, obviously, because FaZe is the best Nuke team in the world, and then they banned Dust 2 immediately after. Against Big, Dust 2 is their first ban, right? And I then looked and I was like, well, maybe Big is a really good Dust 2 team, and I looked at it, and Dust 2 isn't even in their map pool. Or, I'm sorry, it is in their map pool, but it's a 45% win rate. It's not like it's their best map, right? NIP. Against NIP removed Dust 2, and that's because NIP is the team that doesn't have Dust 2 in their map pool. It's their permaban. So that made sense. But it just felt like EG was trying to ban this map out as soon as they could. And so for that reason, I just put Dust 2 at number 7, and you'll kind of see and understand that a little bit more once I get into number 6 and number 5. So number 6, I had Vertigo. So I had Vertigo at number 6. They did not play Vertigo, and they banned it twice, but unlike with Dust 2, it wasn't as immediate to ban, right? So they banned against FaZe. FaZe removed it first, and then against, I believe that's FaZe's permaban. Yep, that is FaZe's permaban, so that would be why they EG just kind of banned Nuke and didn't ban Vertigo, because they knew it was going to get banned by FaZe. And then against Big, Vertigo, let's see here, Vertigo was removed by EG as their final ban. Even though, and this is a key point, even though Big's win rate on Vertigo is 33%. So it's not a map that Big is very good at. So it leaves me to believe maybe they don't, they had a choice. And here's another, this is important. You know what? I'll explain this a little bit later when I get to Ancient, but just keep a tab on EG banning Vertigo against Big, because I have something when I talk about Ancient that might kind of make it even more clear as to why I think they don't like Vertigo. And then against NIP, let's see, Vertigo was removed by Evil Geniuses as their final ban. So I think that made sense. NIP is a good Vertigo team, so obviously going to want to take that out of their hands. So moving on to Ancient, which is the number 5 option. And again, numbers 5 through 8, I kind of feel like can get rearranged, and I do expect Dust 2 to become a more played map for EG as time moves on, just due to their individual skill, just in general. But moving on to Ancient. Ancient was a map that was banned by EG twice and was never played. They banned it against FaZe, obviously, because FaZe is a pretty decent. I mean, they're good on every map. Actually, Ancient is one of their lower win rate maps, but still, just don't want to. It just looks like they didn't want to play it against FaZe. I can understand that. Then up against Big, Big removed Ancient. It's not a map that Big plays at all. They have 33% win rate on the map, so it makes sense that EG would kind of just leave it in, right? But here's what I wanted to get to with that. EG had a choice between banning Vertigo or banning Ancient, right? Now, both maps for Big have a 33% win rate. EG had free picking in terms of which map they wanted to ban and which map they wanted to leave in to see if Big would ban it. Pretty much with confidence knowing the other map is going to get banned, and EG chose to remove Vertigo. So that's why I put Vertigo as my number 6 and Ancient as my number 5, was just because it felt like, okay, clearly they could have gone either way with this, and they still chose to ban Vertigo, and I could totally be reading into that. Okay, at this point, there's so much we don't know about this team. It's everything is speculation, right? In terms of their map pool. But I just felt like if I had to come up with any reason, if I could find any reason for which one they liked over the other, that's why I put Ancient over Vertigo. But like I said, really, Ancient and Vertigo, I feel like you could flip those two either way, and it makes sense. And then against NIP, obviously they removed Ancient first. That was another reason. They removed Ancient first, and that is, I think that's interesting. This could be an argument for why maybe you'd be like, okay, well then what about this though? Because NIP has a 25% win rate on Ancient, and yeah, I could see where that could be like a point against it. I mean, I guess you could say NIP likes playing Ancient. They do play it, I feel like, a decent bit. They played it against Heroic and they won. today. So 1613. It's a map that NIP has always liked to play, even when Ancient just came out. They played it against some of the top teams, Heroic obviously being one, Astralis. They played Astralis on Ancient, so I just feel like it's a map they feel comfortable playing, and so maybe they just didn't want to play it, right? But yeah, so again, that's kind of the map pool that I can theorize for EG right now. Is Inferno Overpass 1 and 2, Mirage Nuke 3 and 4, number 5 and 6 being Ancient Vertigo, and the last one being Dust 2. Like I said, I think that's going to change with time, but that's kind of where we're at right now with the map pool. Just looking ahead here real quick, just want to check my time. Okay, 40 minutes in. Look at that. So, real quick, just kind of want to, I guess, give my thoughts now that we've seen this team play in Blast. Do we expect them to make it past the open qualifier, or make it through the open qualifier to get to the RMR for the major? I think before Blast, I would have said, man, probably not. But I'm gonna be hopeful, right? That would have been my logic. I think after seeing Blast, I'm actually much more confident that EG will make it through. Whether or not they make it through this first qualifier or the next qualifier, I don't know. There's a chance they just they choke, they don't make it through this qualifier, the second qualifier. However, if that happens, I'm quite confident they'll make it through the third. So I don't think there's a massive doubt in my mind after seeing Blast that this team is going to do well in the open qualifier and make it through to the RMR. I think they're looking good. They're really looking good. They've taken a massive step, and I'm looking forward to it. I think the culture in this team has just transformed. I think I'm starting to see it. Devorborg, God, I mean, he's been so open on Twitter, and he cracks jokes with the players, and it just in the interviews he just sounds so like we're gonna change this thing around. We're just really excited, really hopeful, really wants to bring. I think he's the kind of just person, just from hearing him talk, that just knows how to bring the best out of people. And I think he's really working hard with Breezy and Cirque, and he's really working to gain. I think I remember hearing him say, we're just not playing confident enough. And I think that was something that Cirque and Breezy are really struggling with, and I think that's a good sign that they're really trying to tackle this head on. And so I think I really enjoy Vorborg, or D Vorborg. I really think he is going to be a great. I think he's a great fit. I think it's going to be awesome. I have a lot of high hopes for Hext. Automatic has looked incredible. I don't expect that to change. He's always been a really consistent player. Um, I've seen glimpses from Breezy and Cirque more in the last event than I think I've seen in the past like year. So that's really great news. Already Nealon seems to be doing a great job calling. I mean, this roster compared to the previous roster is night and day. Stewie 2K ain't got shit on Nealon right now. It's fucking unreal. Um, I'll preface and say I'm not a huge fan of Stewie 2K as of post EG. All right, pre EG, I liked Stewie 2K. Post EG, I can't stand him. But I'll just leave it at that. If that's something you guys want me to talk about, I can talk about it later, maybe in one of our slower weeks that we might have coming up. But yeah, anyways, I have high hopes for this team. The culture looks like it's getting better with these signings, and I'm very hopeful for the future. They look okay. Like, it looks like they're finally getting some cohesion down. I know that they are. I think they said that they were doing a couple more days of EU prep before moving back to NA to participate in the open qualifier. So hopefully that helps a bit. Um, and yeah, overall, super excited for this team. Can't wait for Wednesday. And hopefully we can look into those games and kind of see what do we think their map pool is going to be. Does this team look like they're showing some consistency? Can they make it through the qualifier, relatively unscathed? We'll see. The open qualifiers are always tough. Upsets are bound to happen. So we're just going to have to hold on and pray that they can make it through that mad gauntlet that is the open qualifier. The good news is you won't have to deal with teams like Complexity and Gaming Gladiators or X Gaming Gladiators. So that's good news. Yeah, so I think that I want to say that's it for the main Well, I guess I'll just say for EPL, looking at the time here, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll briefly touch on EPL. They got a pretty tough group in EPL. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I think it's not going to be, they're not going to be playing in EPL for a couple weeks. So that might be something that I really want to delve and get, really detailed with later, I think, because like I said, I think we're going to see a couple slow weeks. If they qualify for the Open Qualifier, I don't really think EG, their main roster, has too much going on until EPL. Hopefully they're going to be, going back to Europe to practice, but we'll see. I just think there might be some slow weeks coming up until that point, and so maybe I want to save that topic for another time. But I think they did get a pretty tough group, so I will delve into that next time for sure. But I think that's kind of all I wanted to say about the main roster. Let me know what you think about my predictions for their map pool, and we'll kind of monitor that as the time goes on. Even maybe next episode after we see them in the Open Qualifier, see if I was right on some of these, see if I was wrong, see if I read too far into the numbers, and then was just ended up just being completely wrong. Dust 2 ends up being their like third most played map. I mean, who knows? It would be my luck. So that's I think all I'm going to say about the main roster. So next up we have the Party Astronauts team, because the Party Astronauts squad, the EGPA team, has some interesting. Oh, I keep moving my background, man. It's killing me. But the EGPA team has a tournament coming up, guys. They are playing in the ESL Challenger Melbourne groups, and I won't lie, this tournament isn't that stacked, right? This tournament isn't that stacked. It's stacked. It's stacked if you look at it from a tier two perspective, but it's not super stacked or anything. Unfortunately, though, EGPA just happened to get the one group that, even though I think EGPA could arguably be the third best team at this tournament, um, they unfortunately have a group where it's looking like they may not even make it out of the group stage, which is brutal because I think they might actually be the third best team in this tournament. So it's going to be tough, right? But basically, let me break down kind of what the tournament is. So it's ESL Challenger tournament. It's going to be held in Melbourne, Australia. It's been the first time in a long time that they've had a turn. ESL's had a tournament in Australia, but yeah, they're going to have some Australian representation there with Team Order, or ex Team Order, because Order got kind of or they're looking for a new owner, I think, right now. But yeah, basically they have 8 teams participating in this tournament. The 8 teams are going to be OG, Imperial, Pain, Entropic, Order from Australia, EGPA, Wings Up, which, if you don't know who Wings Up is, they just beat Tai Lu in the Asia Open Qualifier or something like that. So, not a team to underestimate at this level. And then Team Vertex, which I don't really know too much about. They're coming into this tournament as the weakest roster. They have some international players, or players that aren't listed here, from what I can see, and they've got 3 Australian players in Malta, Brace, and PZ. Don't really know if who those players are. If they're young guns, have no clue. But they are coming in as the lowest ranked team in the event. But basically, there's 2 groups: Group A, Group B. Group B is Imperial, Pain, Order, and Vertex. So Imperial and Pain should come out 1-2. I actually would think Pain is probably going to be the number 1 team in that group. Who knows, though? Order may cause an upset and beat out Imperial, and may be the second team there. I don't really have high stock on Imperial. I don't think they're that good, frankly. But going on to Group A, you have OG, Entropic, EGPA, and Wings Up. So while Wings Up might be an easy opponent, you're looking at an Entropic and an OG that, frankly, neither one of those 2 teams should be in the same group. But Imperial's rating is so inflated that they are put in Group B. So yeah, that's pretty brutal. EGPA, and for those who don't know, it's 2 groups of 4 teams, and only 2 teams make it out of each group. So unfortunately, even though I think there's a good shot that EGPA actually might be better than Pain and Imperial and Order, and might actually be the third best team in this entire tournament, I just don't know that they can get out of Group A because OG and Entropic are in the group, and only two teams can make it out. So it's just so brutal. For those who don't know Entropic, Entropic is the Russian team, or yeah, I believe they're Ukrainian. I should probably check that, considering they're a Russian team. Yeah, they got Russian players. But if you don't remember, they were competing in the Stockholm Major at the end of last year. It was with Nickelback and Alien and Forrester, and all those guys and Crad, right? So and the other player on the team is Mir. So no team to slouch on at all. They're a strong team. They've been struggling a little bit recently, but they're still a really strong team. And then you've got OG, who obviously just kind of had a pretty big result, qualifying to the fall final by beating, I believe it was, yeah, they beat FaZe in a best of three. So, listen, OG should, in theory, run away with this tournament, no problems at all. But I think the only team that could pose a threat to them is probably Entropic. It just sucks because I know EGPA probably could make a serious run in this tournament, but they just happened to get one of the worst group stages you could have possibly gotten. And it also sucks because I just know Imperial's going to get inflated off of this, and I just don't even. I think EGPA could beat Imperial. I don't think that's out of the question. So it's just tough, It's just tough. It's really tough. So that tournament is going to start September 2nd, which is, let's see here, going to be this Friday, so we might be able to get a few comments in about that, but I don't think the tournament will be over by then. I think this might be a couple weeks. I mean, it says September 2nd to the 4th, so it should end on Sunday. So maybe I'll be able to get it all in on the next episode. So we'll see how it goes, and hopefully they can make a run and maybe upset Entropic. I don't think they'll upset OG, but if they do, I mean, I'm not going to complain. Uh, so that would be pretty cool. But that's kind of all I had for EGPA. Moving on to EG Carpe Diem. So I'm really quick, just change my topic here. EG Carpe Diem. So I don't have much to touch on here just because a lot of their matches aren't being listed on HLTV yet. I've never watched ECL before in NA. I'm pretty new to focusing on the Tier 2 NA scene, which I feel like I was kind of forced into just by the lack of, just wanting EG's Blueprint project and just me wanting to understand the NA scene better. But regardless, while I don't have any matches that I can look at and really theorize if they're going to do well, we do have the groups for the the ECL. It's called the ESL Challenger League Season 42, North America, and so it's online. But we've got the groups listed here, and they are going to be participating in Group A. I'm not really going to go over Group B. Group B is pretty stacked from what I can tell, but Group A. EGCD's got a chance. They've got Team One, MIBR, EG, Carpe Diem, Brazen, Northern Forces, Davenport University, Unjustified, I believe that is, and Mythic. So I think EGCD could be a third or fourth seed in this group. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe they're better than this. Maybe they're worse. I'm not 100% sure because I don't. I'm still trying to get into understanding how good some of these tier 2 teams are in comparison to each other. But I don't think that's outrageous to say. And it's an unknown quantity what Stanislaw is going to do with this team, right? I'm a little worried for them in the sense that I kind of worry about their firepower because they have Stanislaw and Rush. Sure, they're experienced and everything, but I don't know. Walco used to be an in-game leader. Now he's just going to be expected to frag. I just don't. They lost Hext, right, and Classia. I'm a little worried that their firepower may just be lacking, and that it won't. The additions of Stanislaw and Rush won't be enough. But we will see with time. Hopefully, they prove me wrong and they make a good run out of this. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how ECL works in terms of how long it's going to be and whatnot. But as the matches get posted, I will be talking about them and giving updates, and hopefully you and me will get a better idea for how the Tier 2 NA scene, kind of is in terms of how good certain teams are and how, maybe underwhelming. Teams that maybe I thought were good maybe aren't as good as I thought. So we will see with time. But yeah, I think that's everything about EGCD. I didn't really have too much there. And well, that's pretty pretty much it for this episode. I had quite a bit to talk about, mainly with the Counter Strike team, because there is a lot going on there. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I will be doing these on a weekly basis. Hopefully it's going to be every Sunday that I record them, and then I'll post them, scheduled to post them on Monday. And hopefully, I'm hoping that there will be enough content going on with EG, or enough things going on that weekly is a good pace for this, and that hopefully it's not like, oh, I do it weekly and most of the weeks there's just nothing going on. And like I said, I'm going to cover the other teams. I am monitoring them and keeping track of them, but I don't want to give an ill opinion of something, and potentially just make myself look stupid, right? So I feel like with Counter Strike, I have a pretty good idea for what's going on, so I feel more confident talking about that. If you guys have any ideas, maybe I don't know, like if the Counter Strike team ends up being enough content, maybe I should transition into making this a Counter Strike only thing, or Counter Strike and Valorant only thing, um, just to kind of keep it within my expertise. But who knows? Like I said, I think I understand enough about League of Legends to comment about it in a in a broad way. I can't really talk about pick bans, but I feel like I have a decent understanding of the game. Um, and okay, from a viewer perspective, right? From a viewer perspective, um, but some of the other games like Dota 2 and Rocket League's easy enough to understand, just from watching to some degree. But there's just certain things that I won't be able to speak a whole lot on, but I will try my best, and keep it as good as possible, with staying within the boundaries of what I know, right? Um, yeah, if you guys have any suggestions for something you'd like to see, um, yeah, just give me a shout. If I miss any news, that you guys think I should, is worth bringing up, let me know, and I'll bring it up next time. It's still a work in progress. I'm hoping that maybe I can get my ideas out there a little bit, and it'll help. Just kind of, maybe I won't have to tweet at the owner too much. The fat chance, but I'll try my best to kind of rein it in a little bit. Um, but yeah, so yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on the teams. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the EG, the new EG roster for Counter Strike. E.g., League of Legends looking like they're struggling, looking like they're gonna have to face a tough match to get into to Worlds. I wore my you can't really see it. Move back a little bit. I wore my Witness Our Rise shirt today. Uh, all for nothing. All for nothing. No, it's okay. I'll try to wear it next week too. But yeah, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, right? But most importantly, I want to just say thank you for watching the show. I really appreciate it, guys. And hopefully, you guys tune in next week for some more news where we can get to catch up on the CS:GO roster, see if they qualify for the Open Qualifier, see how EGPA does at the Melbourne tournament. See if League of Legends can qualify for Worlds. We got some stuff going on. There's things happening. So we'll keep going on. We'll keep it rolling. And yeah, looking forward to it. Catch you next time.